Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. We are studying, of course, Swami Chaitanananda's wonderful book, Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play, a comprehensive biography of Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. I believe that Haima told me we're on page 550, for those of you following along in the book, and the subhead is Holy Mother's Low Caste Disciples. Before we start, is there anything anyone would like to offer in the way of a comment or a question, a concern, or something from your own wisdom or thoughts or experience about Holy Mother? All right, dears. So, Haima, please begin.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Honored to. Holy Mother's Low Caste Disciples, page 550. One morning, a young schoolboy from the Garbeta area came to meet Holy Mother at Jairambati. He was a Bhagdi, which was a low caste. At noon, he asked Holy Mother to give him initiation. She listened to his background and was hesitant to initiate him in her village. She said, well, you have your family guru. You can have initiation from him. You are young, so don't be in a hurry for initiation. Moreover, at present, my health is not good, and I have too many problems here. It would be better if you could come to Calcutta for initiation. The boy replied, well, mother, I understand that you're hesitant to be a Bhagdi's mother. But in the Tele Bello meadow, you didn't hesitate to become a Bhagdi's daughter.
Does everyone remember that story? That Holy Mother walking to Calcutta with to Dakshineshwar with a group of other devotees couldn't keep up, and so she got left behind. And it was night fell, and there was a thug, and he approached her. And she said, oh, thank you, you've come to rescue me. I'm your daughter, Sarada. And of course, she completely stole his heart and his wife's heart. And so they became immediately attached to her. And they were of this low caste, Bhagdi caste. And so they actually accompanied her all the way to Dakshineshwar. And it was quite a lovely story. It was told earlier in the book. And apparently it was a widely known story, particularly among those of low caste, that she attached herself to these people immediately and without hesitation, and completely blunted any desire they had to rob her by her innocence and her sincerity and her loving nature. Anybody else have any memories of that story they'd like to share?
It showed such dedication and courage on the part of the mother at such a young age that she was so bold to walk across that, the way it's described, that path.
Yes,
And it's an inspiration.
it is an inspiration indeed. So she became a Bhagdi's daughter in this story. So the boy was at the very least intelligent and clever to remind mother of this.
That's true.
And so, please go on, dear.
Okay. Holy Mother smiled but said nothing. Later, she said to him, "My child, tomorrow morning take your bath and wait. After my worship, someone will call you." The next morning after her worship, Holy Mother initiated the boy. At that time, her brother Kalikumar was buying groceries in Haldigram, and Nalini had gone to take her bath. Holy Mother was concerned about how they would react if they came to know about the initiation. However, it went off without any difficulty. Holy Mother was extremely careful to avoid confrontation with her conservative family members.
And not just the family members, as we've heard in earlier readings. There were some very conservative, wealthy zamindars and others that gave her trouble and wanted to fine her for her, crossing caste boundaries. So it wasn't just her family members.
Bhushan Chandra Pila was another disciple of Holy Mother who belonged to the Bhakti caste. Bhushan recalled his initiation. In the afternoon, I went to Jairambati with my uncle Shivadas Dalui and his uncle Jatindra Dalui. I asked for initiation from the mother, but she declined. I told her, "Mother, you had a Bhakti father, so why are you hesitant to accept Bhakti children?" At night, when she asked us to have prasad, I said, "If you do not initiate us, we shall not eat." We did not eat that night, and neither did the mother. The next morning, Uncle Prasanna came to us and said, "Sister has asked you to have a bath and go to her for initiation."
Sweet story.
It is indeed. Swami Parameshwarananda told this story. It was long after the incident at Telebello. The mother was then in Jairambati. A young Bhakti man came and asked the mother, "Please initiate me." I was present. The mother said, "I am not well. It is not possible for me to initiate you." That young man thought that the mother was reluctant to initiate him because he belonged to the low Bhakti caste. "Picked," he said in a harsh tone. "I see that you could be a daughter of a Bhakti, but you don't want to be the mother of a Bhakti. I have come from Tello village. Please know that your robber father is my father."
Aha! Woo-hoo.
When she heard this, the mother was pleased and initiated him despite her illness. How
My
wonderful.
goodness.
Yeah,
So that
what a story.
indeed, what a story.
What a
I
story.
had never heard. I don't remember reading that before. We read books and then we don't remember sometimes what's said. But I didn't remember that this boy was the son of
Son of the robber.
Yeah.
Wow.
How sweet. Okay, dear.
Next, I would say it's not a chapter. What would you call, Brother Shankara?
It's a subhead.
It's subhead, yes.
Yeah.
Holy Mother's farsightedness. Sudhir Chandra Samui was born in Jairambati. His father was an illiterate farmer, and his grandmother was one of Holy Mother's maids who mopped the floor and washed the clothes. Holy Mother told her to send her grandson Sudhir to school. He later graduated from the University of Calcutta and became the headmaster of Diopara Champamani High School. He wrote in his memoirs, at that time there was no school for the children in Jairambati village. The mother arranged to start a primary school for them. The mother had deep feelings for the poor farmers of the village.
Hold on just one moment.
Sure.
You see the roots of the Ramakrishna missions starting schools for these in Holy Mother's actions and in Vivekananda's teachings. You know, he insisted what people need to remove their ignorance and become self-sufficient is education. And so here's Mother, this very early on. This is, before really, things had gotten very much started. I mean, they were started, but not to where they are now, or anywhere near it. So she started a primary school for the children in Jairambati, setting an example that the order has continued to follow.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I want to quickly share this. One of my friends here in Atlanta, her sister and her husband, they were in like big time corporate job and earning good money. But I think her husband was a devotee. I don't know if initiated or not, but certainly Swami Vivekananda's student at the least. And they both got so inspired that they quit their corporate jobs and went to a small village in Madhya Pradesh and started a school for the tribal children. And initially there were like hardly 4 or 5, and they figured out that the children were not used to learning, so but they were very good in sports, so they started teaching them soccer, and through that got them interested in studying. And they lived in a small rental place, but now the school has grown so big. I think they have like 250 children. Some of the children actually made to the state championship in soccer or football, and they're doing such an awesome job. Riverside Academy, I think, is the name of the school. But they were inspired by Swamiji's.
So many
So
inspired
wonderful.
stories like this.
Yeah.
So many. Thank you for sharing that, Swayam.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah, there's an organization called American Service to India, ASTI. It was started by Swami Swahananda and his disciples, and it has funded educational and medical institutions in India since the 1980s, since the early 1980s. And I don't know how many millions of dollars have been sent in that time, but so many people have applied to them. And so the American devotees, our devotees here in America, both Western devotees and those of Indian descent, have contributed to ASTI. And it's a really very worthy organization for doing exactly these things. So it's so good. Anything else from anyone? This is exactly what we should be sharing. All right. Go ahead, dear.
The mother had deep feelings for the poor farmers of the village. Once she asked Bibhuti Ghosh, a disciple of the mother, Bibhuti, it would be wonderful if a dam could be built on the Amador River to divert some water to Ahar, which is a big lake that is now called Meyer Diggi. That will help the farmers to irrigate their fields during the drought. I have seen Amzad, a robber of Shiromanipur, who came to see the mother from time to time. We were afraid of him. I saw the mother receive him with affection and feed him.
Not only feed him, but feed him on a leaf plate that she would then take away. And Radu and Nalini raised all kinds of cane with her about it. You know, what are you doing? And she said, this is my son.
It was wonderful. At that time, there was no good facility for drinking water in the village. The villagers bathed and washed clothes in the same pond where they collected drinking water. The mother arranged through Swami Saradananda to dig a well in the village so that the people could have good drinking water.
Once again, the mother, you know, this is not an inconsiderable expense to dig a well. I mean, the water table, I'm sure, in West Bengal is raised reasonably high. You don't have to dig hundreds of feet to get water. But to get good sanitary water, you have to dig, you know, more than just a few feet. So it's expensive. And so, once again, through the order, Swami Sharadananda, who we must remember was the general secretary. He was the general secretary, which is essentially the chief executive officer of the order. She prevailed on him to do this. So the order was already doing these things. And she was setting the example in her own home village. And doing it out of affection, not as some stunt of setting an example. But it was, you know, out of love for these people. And that was the example she was setting. We do these things not because we're good guys, but because we love these people. We love them as the divine being, as the divine presence. Anything else from anyone while we're paused? All right, please go ahead, dear.
Okay. During Jagadatri Puja, the mother would arrange a big festival and feed the villagers. She supervised the whole affair. She had unbounded love and affection for the villagers. My uncle Ramendra Ghosh looked after the mother's cows. Once he was bitten by a snake. The village doctor and Bibhuti tied his hand so that the poison could not spread. And the doctor cut the spot to take out the poisonous blood. The mother rushed there and said to them, "What are you doing? Take Ramendra to the temple of Simhavahini, give him the mother's bathing water to drink, and apply the mud of the temple on his wound."
Now, for those of you who don't know, the water used to bathe the image, that's what she's talking about, mother's bathing water. The mother's, whenever there's an image and water is used to bathe it, that is considered very sacred water indeed. And that's because it has the vibrations of the deity in it. And so this is what she said. Take him to the temple, give him mother's bathing water to drink. So that's what she's talking about, for those of you who don't know.
And apply the mud of the temple on his wound, he will be all right. It was done, and Ramendra recuperated within 2 or 3 days.
Now, this could have been a death sentence for him, this snake bite.
On some auspicious occasions, the mother and Aunt Banu went to Amador to bathe.
Excuse me, I tried to breathe some tea.
No problem.
Go ahead, please, dear.
Sure. On some auspicious occasions, the mother and Aunt Banu went to Amador to bathe. Seeing the farmers working in the fields, the mother commented, These people work so hard, but do not get square meals every day. The place where the mother took her bath is now called Mayor Ghat.
Mayor means mother.
Mother. Next subheading is Holy Mother's illness and recovery. In the fall of 1917, sure, go ahead.
It's Mayer.
Meyer? Is it Meyer?
Yeah, it's Mayer in Bengali.
Okay, thank you, Shailesh. Thanks for correcting. Meyer Ghat. Okay. Holy Mother's illness and recovery. In the fall of 1917, after Jagadatri Puja, Holy Mother suffered from malaria off and on. In January, she became bedridden. When this news reached Calcutta, Swami Saradananda left for Jairambati on 21st January 1918, accompanied by Dr. Satish Chakrabarti, Dr. Kanjilal, Yoginma, Golapma, and Sarada. When Holy Mother saw so many people arriving at Jairambati, she said to Brahmachari Barada, my son, so many of them have come to look after me. Please receive Kedar's permission for you and Rajan to stay here for a few days, buy groceries, and do errands for them. Dr. Kanjilal gave homeopathic medicine to Holy Mother that slowly cured her fever. The presence of her dearest ones gave her joy and strength. Swami Saradananda was in a great mood. Every day the party would bathe in the Amador River. On the bank of the river, there was an Amlaki tree. Their Brahmachari Bimal, later Swami Dayananda, would read a couple of verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and Saradananda would explain them, which enthralled the audience. Yoginma repeated 10,000 japa every day there without changing her position. Barada brought pure drinking water from the river in a pitcher back to Holy Mother's residence, and the mother served them prasad. Saradananda, Yoginma, and Golapma returned to Calcutta, but Holy Mother wanted to stay in Jairambati. So Brahmachari Bilas and Sarala stayed a few days more.
Sarala was very close to her and later became a nun in one of the convents. I don't know if it was Sarada Mat or one of the others started by Golapma or Yoginma. But in any case, she did become a nun. She was very dear to the mother. Okay.
One day in February 1918, Brahmacharis Rajan and Barada went to Jairambati with groceries. When they were about to return to Kolpara that evening, they saw the mother seated on the veranda, stretching her legs. Rajan said to her, "Mother, previously I had deep concentration in japa and meditation, and I experienced great joy. But now I am engaged in various activities and I'm unable to concentrate. I'm unable to practice japa and meditation sufficiently." The mother replied calmly.
Oh, listen up, all of us who share this,
This agitation.
this what was just talked about. Please listen to Mother's reply.
The mother replied calmly, "My son, in the beginning, if you do not get a little taste in spiritual life, how will you pass the rest of your life? For that reason, the master gave you a little intoxication, but now he's making you do his work. After you have accomplished the necessary tasks, you will bestow on you higher realizations."
He will bestow on you.
He will bestow, I'm sorry. He will bestow on you higher realizations.
Now, this
Realizations, yes. Go ahead, Brother Shankar.
the reason I brought this up is that if we take Sri Krishna seriously, and for that matter, Sri Ramakrishna seriously in the Gita and in the Gospel, all the work that we do is their work. She says, but now he is making you do his work. All the work that we do is his work, if we are to believe Sri Krishna and Sri Ramakrishna. If you read chapters 4 and 5 in the Gita, or start with chapter 2 and 3, just read the 2 through 6, you get a very good fix on what it is that Sri Krishna says is actually happening in our lives. And this work that we do, these activities that we're involved in, they are his. Thou, thy will be done, thy sweet will be done. This is thy machine, thou art the operator. This was Sri Ramakrishna's refrain. And so this sequence of events that Holy Mother described to this young man will be the truth for each of us. So not to be fretful about having these activities. You can pray to Mother, "Oh, Mother, reduce my activities so that I have more time to spend with you and that I don't have so much occupying my mind." And that's perfectly legitimate. As a matter of fact, the Master and Mother recommend it. But don't be fretful about the fact that you have this work to do. And then she says, after you've accomplished the necessary tasks, he, the Master, Sri Ramakrishna, will bestow on you higher realizations. And if we're faithful, and if we're diligent, and keep our mind on what we're doing and on the witness self, this will be the case. Any other comments or questions from anyone?
Yeah, can I share this nice story that I heard today in Swami Sarvapriyananda's somebody had posted a small clip of his larger talk. I think he was explaining Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 22, Ananyas Chintayanto Ma, basically where Krishna says that if you worship me exclusively, basically I will take care of you.
Yes.
I'll carry you on my shoulders or head. And Swami Sarvapriyananda actually used a name of the person which I forgot, but he was a priest, and when he was reading, or maybe a Gita scholar or something, when he was reading this verse, he did not agree with the word carry. Like, how can the Lord carry? He will bestow, but he won't carry. So he scratched out the Sanskrit word for carry and replaced it with bestow. And that day they didn't have any food to eat. Everything was empty. So, and he had gone to the temple. Then there was a knock on the door, and when his wife opened, there was this young boy who had a basket full of food stuff that he said it was for them. And she asked, "Who sent you?" So he said, "Your husband sent me all this food." Then she noticed that he had a big gash on his head. So she was like, overwhelmed, and she said, "Who did that to you?" And the boy said, "Well, your husband did that to me." So she couldn't understand. So when husband came back, she said, "What did you do to this boy? You sent him with food, and but you also hit him." So that's when the priest realized that because he had cut the word, the Kari word in the Gita, it actually gashed Sri Krishna's face. So then he went back and then he rewrote the Vahamyaham word. He re-included that.
Yes, this is a very, very powerful story that is told. I know of many a Swami who's told that story, so that we get some sense of just how intimately Sri Krishna means what he says in the Gita. This is not some nonsense from 5,000 or 2,500 years ago. This is a reality that Sri Krishna is describing. And if we trust in it, if we have faith in it, as he asks us to do, just have trust in me, have faith in me, don't hold any reservations, don't try to keep one foot in the other camp of self-will. Just abandon I, me, mine, and surrender yourself to thou, thee, thine. And he means it. And this is why the Swamis over and over have told this story. I believe it's in Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga, or perhaps Bhakti Yoga. But in any event, the intimacy, the nearness of Shiva, I mean, well, Shiva too, for that matter, the nearness of Sri Krishna is so, as Swami Prabhupada used to repeat to us, nearer than the nearmost, dearer than the dearmost, nearer than the nearmost, dearer than the dearmost. So if we can allow our heart to rest with that, it's very auspicious indeed. Anything else from anyone? This is a good place to have a little conversation. Thank you for bringing that to us, Swayam. This is an important point. All right.
You want me to start the mother's reply from the beginning, Brother Shankara, the 4 lines? The mother replied,
Sure.
The mother replied calmly, "My son, in the beginning, if you do not get a little taste in spiritual life, how will you pass the rest of your life? For that reason, the master gave you a little intoxication, but now he's making you do his work. After you have accomplished the necessary tasks, he will bestow on you higher realizations. You will attain bliss. Don't worry. Now do his work. You will get spiritual experience later. The master exists. Don't forget him. Think of him and do your duties."
Nearer than the nearmost, dearer than the dearmost. He exists. Think of him. The master exists. Don't forget him. Think of him and do your duties. These are words of profound instruction. And we can watch this actually happen in Mother's life and in the life of her disciples, as have been described in this book. Okay, please go ahead, dear.
As the mother did not go to Calcutta, the monks requested that she visit Kolpara. She agreed, and in the middle of March 1918, she went to Kolpara and stayed a few days in Jagadamba Ashrama. One afternoon, Holy Mother suddenly lost outer consciousness, saying, "Master." Kedar's mother said that the mother was in samadhi. Other women sprinkled water on her head and ice and fanned her. When the mother regained her consciousness, Nalini asked, "Aunt, what happened?" The mother tried to hide it, saying, "It's nothing. Perhaps I became dizzy while trying to thread a needle."
You know, this is so funny. These great ones, they would do that. You know, Swami Brahmananda would dissemble like this also. He would say, "Oh, I just had a little indigestion or something." You know, when he was clearly, I mean, the pictures taken of him, you know, he was clearly in samadhi. So, but so it's just, you know, they don't like to talk about their spiritual experiences, these great ones. One of the reasons is we couldn't understand anyway what they, you know, they could gesture to something, but, you know, what does it, you know, this is beyond Savikalpa Samadhi, what the mother experienced, no doubt. She lived in that state, Swami Vivekananda said. So thank you, dear. Go ahead, please.
Later, Holy Mother described her samadhi to Brahmachari Bharata. After my illness in Jairampati, I went to Kolpara with a weak body. One afternoon, I was seated on the veranda. Nalini and others were sewing something nearby. It was very hot and the sun was scorching. I saw the master enter through the main door, come into the shade of the veranda, and lie down on the cold, muddy floor. When I saw that, I hurriedly tried to spread the upper part of my sari on the floor. And then I lost outer consciousness. Kedar's mother and others raised an uproar. I told them it was nothing. Perhaps I got dizzy while passing thread through the eye of a needle.
So she remembered very clearly what she had said.
Holy Mother also told Bharata that whenever she was very ill and thought of the master, he always appeared before her. Holy.
Well,
Sure.
Let's hold to that thought. If we think and behave as the mother as best we can, these promises are not just meant for her then. As I've said many times, they're meant for us now. So when we're very ill,
That's right.
something can happen. We can have an experience of the comforting presence and the rescuing presence of these divine personalities. Okay, dear.
Holy Mother was gaining strength day by day in Kolpara, and the monks and devotees were happy to have her with them. One day, Prabodh Chattopadhyaya of Shambazar came to visit her. She said to him, "Hello, Prabodh. What is the news of the war?" That was World War I. What destruction of human lives. Nowadays, people have invented so many weapons to destroy people, and also so many machines, telegraphs, aeroplanes, and so on. Look, Raj Bihari left Calcutta yesterday and reached here today. We used to go to Dakshineshwar on foot and with so much hardship. Excited, Prabodh praised Western science and technology. He gave examples of a few scientific inventions. The mother agreed and then said, "But my son, despite those amenities, the scarcity of food and clothing has increased. Previously, there was not so much suffering for want of food." Prabodh could not agree. It's true. While they were talking,
Prabodh could not argue.
That's right. Prabodh could not argue. Sorry. While they were talking, a hailstorm started, and the mother's women companions began collecting hailstones, putting burlap sacks on their heads. Overjoyed, they gave some chunks of hail to Holy Mother, and she ate them.
That's about the purest water you're going to get.
That's right. On that hot day, everyone enjoyed putting pieces of ice in their mouths. The next day, the mother had a fever, perhaps because she had eaten the hailstones. Her temperature.
That's not likely, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not likely to be any bacteria in hailstones. But, who knows? The mother's body is not like ours. So, her temperature rose to 103. Oh, my goodness.
Her temperature rose to 103 degrees and her hands and feet began to burn. Delirious, she was calling Sharath, Sharath. A letter was sent to Sharath Maharaj in Calcutta, describing the mother's physical condition and remittent fever. A cable also was sent on 10th April, 1918. Saradananda immediately sent Dr. Kanjilal along with Parameshwarananda and Bhumananda. Dr. Kanjilal gave medicine to Holy Mother, but her fever did not subside. Delirious, the mother said, "Has Sharath come?" If the attendant asked, "Mother, shall we ask him to come?" she replied, "No, my son. It will be hard on him to come in this hot summer weather." Dr. Kanjilal was alarmed that his homeopathic medicine was not working. News was again sent to Sharadananda. Immediately, he left for Jairambati, bringing his brother, Dr. Satish Chakrabarti, an allopathic doctor, and Yogin Ma. They took the night train and arrived at Kolpara on 17th April, 1918 at 1:30 in the afternoon by horse carriage from Vishnupur. Without changing his clothes, Saradananda rushed to Holy Mother's room and saw that she was restless and stretching out her hands for relief. Her temperature was very high and the burning sensation was unbearable. She was not fully conscious. The doctor told Saradananda that when the mother's temperature increased, she enjoyed touching something cool to get relief from the burning sensation. Saradananda had a bulky body and had just arrived from a long journey on a hot summer day. His clothes were wet with perspiration, so his body was cool. He sat on the cot near the mother's head, lifted his shirt and t-shirt, and placed her hands on the lower part of his chest. Holy Mother felt the coolness and opened her eyes. When she saw Sharat, she said, "Ah, my whole body has become cool. Sharat's body is like a cold stone."
Don't think
Yes.
that there wasn't some little yogic activity going on here as well. When Sharat did this, he was not an ordinary being.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
Yes. This is one of the people that Sri Ramakrishna said had been a direct disciple of Christ. So Sharat's body is like a cold stone. Yes. So go ahead, dear.
Sharadananda said, "Mother, we have come. Now you will get well soon." Holy Mother replied, "Yes, my son, I shall get better soon." The mother's temperature became normal the next day, and a few days later, she began eating solid food.
The mother's temperature became normal the next day after being so high for so many days.
Yeah. On 21 April, Dr. Kanjilal returned to Calcutta. Day by day.
He was the homeopathic doctor.
Yes.
His medicines weren't working. Naturally he was disappointed, but he did his best. Okay.
Day by day, the mother's health was improving and she was gaining strength in Kolpara. Sharadananda and others were optimistic. One day after the Vesper service, the Kolpara monks asked Saradananda to sing some songs about the master. He sang a song composed by Girish Ghosh, which is Dukhini Brahmani Kol, who is lying in the lap of a poor Brahmin woman. That is the song.
Mm-hmm.
So he sang a song composed by Girish Ghosh and another that he had written, which is Oi Stimata Chitta Sindhu. Who is that divine child arisen from cosmic consciousness? That's the meaning of the song. He also taught the local monks the Aratrika hymns to the master according to the tune sung in Belur Math.
Yeah, in other words, the Arati hymns that are sung, Kandana Bhavana and Om Ring Ritam. Okay.
During that joyful period, sad news arrived in Kolpara. Swami Prajnananda had passed away. He was a revolutionary who had become a disciple of the mother and then president of Advaita Ashrama. He was a brilliant thinker and a great writer. Grief-stricken, Sharadananda remarked, Prajnananda was a gentleman. The Swami considered a gentleman who could talk rationally without losing his temper in adverse and hostile situations. Nalin Bihari Sarkar recorded how Holy Mother sought divine help during her illnesses. Once the mother was suffering from terrible malaria at Jairambati just prior to her last illness. I was massaging her feet. She said to me, "Look, my son, I have been praying for the last few days, but there has been no response. How much I have wept. Still none came to help me. At last, the Divine Mother Jagadatri came today, but her face resembled my mother's face. Now I shall recover from my illness." My son, this time I have suffered too much. Only after much prayer did I see Jagadatri today. I am going to be cured this time also. Don't be afraid, my child. If you call on God earnestly, He will definitely protect you in all situations. Very true, Brother Shankara. I cannot disagree with that.
Well, but we have to see that the mother suffered for some time before her prayer was answered. So we do not understand why these things occur. We don't understand. But it's useful to remember. It's useful to remember that the Master said that Shakti's divine play is not linear. It's not cause and effect. As a matter of fact, he seemed to be describing the quantum world when he said that she is capricious and unpredictable. And so even the mother had to suffer for a number of days before her prayer was answered. This is where the Master's instruction about forbearance comes in. We must forbear. And the alternative is to be what Sri Ramakrishna called a tamasic bhakta. And that is to really just throw a tantrum, so to speak, and say, look, I'm doing my best. I'm living my life the best I can. And here, this is going on. What am I, your 8-month child? And it's always useful to remember things like what happened to Saint Teresa of Avila. Now, Saint Teresa of Avila was demonstrably as close to the divine presence as a human being can be and remain alive. If you read her writings, her poetry, she was united with the divine. And yet one night when she was in the mountains near the town of Avila, I believe it was near the town of Avila, the hills, riding in a cart in a thunderstorm, the cart overturned and she tumbled down the hill and got all muddy and bruised. And when she got up and stood on her legs, she shook her fist at the heavens and said, if this is how you treat your friends, it's no wonder you have so few of them. Now, I think that, personally, I find that a very funny remark. She meant every word she said. She was upset about the fact that she was treated this way. She threw a little tantrum. If this is the way you treat your friends, is it any wonder you have so few of them? So, yes, the divine presence will definitely protect you in all situations, but sometimes not immediately. And sometimes unpleasant things will happen. And we mustn't think that there's something wrong, therefore. Any comments or questions? Anything to share from your own wisdom or experience about these things?
I have a comment to make, Brother Shankara.
Please do, dear.
Mother Teresa said once in one of her books, through suffering, you get closer to God. I agree with that. It's a test for us, for our forbearance in life. How we overcome that suffering, then it's uphill. I am one example of my own life. My house burned completely with 2 little children.
Oh, my.
My house burned because of lightning hit the building. My condo completely burned when I have two young little boys, 5 and 10, 6 and 11.
My.
We lost almost everything. And we started, and I didn't even have insurance. I was so innocent as a single mother. And it took me a long time to recover. But we overcame. It was, now I see it, that is what it is, all for the best. And I have been in an airplane accident in Kuwait, spent, I mean, I have been into so many things, you name it, I was in it. So, but I overcame, and now I look back, it was all for the best to make me spiritually grow. I see the result of it, and I'm a prime example of that. I mean, I'm just an ordinary person, went through so many, there are so many people who go through like this, but we just have to, it's a test for our forbearance. Test for the forbearance. God always carries you. I believe in the footprints. I believed in footprints, like Bhagavad Gita says, like Jesus said. And it always, I overcame. And I didn't have a whole lot, but I have enough to take care of my necessities and give a little.
It is a fact that Mother said, eventually you will come to see that all suffering is a blessing.
It's a blessing, exactly. I consider
Because
that as.
it's very difficult to shake us loose from our ancient ways. We're very old beings with lots of mental impressions that kind of keep us, because we know those names and forms, and we love what is familiar, and we have a aversion that is strongly or even more strongly to change. And so it takes these things to shake us loose.
We have to believe in. We have to believe in and have earnestly, call on divine earnestly. That's truly, he will carry us. Yes. He will carry us when we are in difficulties.
Many of us know the name Aldous Huxley.
Yes.
He was a disciple of Swami Prabhavananda. At one time, his home, which was in a canyon in Los Angeles, that during one of their periodic fires, that canyon, the fire came up the canyon and burnt the Huxley home to the ground. They essentially lost everything. All of his works in progress. This was before computers and cloud storage and all that business. So it was all paper. All of his work in progress and all of his treasures. He had many treasures. He later said to Swami Prabhavananda, at first I really grieved, but now I feel so free. It's freed me from so much.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Sure.
We'll start again with Holy Mother Returns to Calcutta. We made it through a whole 5 pages.
Oh yes, this chapter only has one more page, and then we will go to Udbodhan, Mother's house. Yes. We're almost the end of the chapter.
Right.
So, we covered quite a bit today.
Well, 5 pages, that's pretty good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions here at the end before we close?
Hi, Maji. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you.
personal experience.
Yes, indeed.
It's very difficult, to keep doing sadhana and do what we do. It's very easy to say and listen, but
yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And, we know that now, as you said, you're in an auspicious situation with enough. I know it's probably not ample, but there's enough.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So blessings, blessings, blessings.
Thank you.
So we'll close with this. O dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om Hari Om, Om Hari Om, Om Hari Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And of course, our closing Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe, may we be healthy, may we be cheerful, may we have peace of mind, and may we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So,
Thank you,
those of
Shankara.
you who wish to join us tomorrow night, of course, we're studying Swami Vivekananda's Gyana Yoga. And he is in right raging good form, very inspiring. He's just not putting up with any of our ignorance and nonsense. He's standing at the open door saying, come to me, come to me. And he's, of course, the spokesperson for Sri Ramakrishna. So that's, and then of course, the next opportunity for us to meet will be on Saturday to study Realizing God. And then on Sunday, the talk will be Nature is for the Soul. Some very inspiring quotes and information about what that means. So, good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Namaste.
See you again soon.